Hello and welcome to the second part of my interview with Templeton Investments' Mark Mobius. We've discussed how things have gone over the last 25 years for emerging markets, but it's very clear that at the moment the whole thesis of emerging markets is coming under test. Does that create opportunities for the future, and where are those opportunities to be found? In particular, are they to be found in what's now known as the frontier markets? So let me greet once more Mark Mobius. Thanks for joining me once more. Let's take a look at the performance of frontier markets, as they're now known, since 2002. That's the red line there. Were even more impressive than the emerging markets on the way up, but then were much slower to recover after the global crash of '08. You can see why people are excited about them over the last year or two. They've been making up ground. What do you think is driving frontiers as an asset class? Are you more excited now by frontier markets than by emerging markets?
I am more excited because the growth is higher.
Right.
If you look at the average growth for the frontier, it's about 6% we're looking at this year compared to 5% for the emerging markets generally. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we're back to 1987 when we started in these markets. They're just beginning to list companies. They're beginning to get the idea of a market economy. They're putting their rules and regulations in place. So there are lots of opportunities there simply because they're not researched. Not many people know about them.
So to take some of the biggest frontier markets like Nigeria or Pakistan, do they remind you of the likes of China, Brazil, the more successful emerging markets as of 25 years ago? What are the key points of similarity?
Absolutely. I mean, there is very great similarity between what Nigeria, Egypt, and these other countries are like now and what the Brazilians were like back then when we started in 1987. Remember, in 1987, we couldn't even invest in Brazil that time. It was a closed market. So it was not until the 90s that we started really getting into Brazil, and then it was hyperinflation, 2,000% inflation and more.
Now, where precisely in the the frontier is an extremely broad category, even more so than emerging. Where exactly is of greatest interest to you, and where are the greatest risks?
Well, you have to look at Africa to begin with, because it's a huge continent, lots of resources, and lots of human resources. I believe that going forward, Africa will become a big manufacturing center like China has been in the last few decades. So Africa is the beginning. Then you have to look at Far Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, all those other countries. Then you've got to look at some of the Asian countries. You mentioned Pakistan, you've got Sri Lanka, you've got some of these other countries. Myanmar is just beginning its market economy adventure.
Now, what are the more important points when you're doing due diligence? Are you trying to look at the company level, or is it still more important to look at politics? And particularly in the case of Africa, where it's so fragmented, imperialist legacy, how much difficulty is there in doing due diligence on the corporate governance?
You've got to look at the company level, and particularly the management. What kind of management is in this company, and how are they running the company in the context of this very difficult macro environment? Because in each country you've got challenges, whether it be taxes, inflation, lack of the rule of law, et cetera, et cetera. But for good, capable managements, they're able to surmount all these problems and prosper because there's very little competition.
Okay, so for the time being, they have what Warren Buffett might call wide economic moats. I mean, is this the point then? Are you free to take emerging market portfolios and actually put them into what is currently described as frontier markets? Have you already started to make that shift?
Oh, we've already started, and Pakistan would be one example where we were investing in Pakistan in the last 4 or 5 years and have had tremendous appreciation as a result of going in when everybody was very frightened of Pakistan. So there are lots of opportunities like that.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. We've had a gallop around the emerging markets. I think, though, I find it difficult to disagree. If you're looking for the same kind of returns that we've seen from emerging markets over the last 25 years, you probably need to go to what we now know as the frontier. It's not necessarily safe or comfortable investing, but for the very long term, there have to be good chances there.